Hi, I'm Kelsey from roughandtumblefarmhouse.com, and today we are going to be planting some fall bulbs. I was really excited. My mom got a big batch of a couple types of bulbs from the store, and she really didn't have space to plant them all. So she was really nice in giving me a few of them. So I'm going to show you the types of bulbs that there are, because there's a few different types, and I have at least 2 different types of bulbs. I'm going to show you where I'm going to plant them and what I'm going to do with the soil to get it ready, and kind of a little bit about their care and maintenance here going into fall and winter. Where I'm going to be putting the bulbs, right where my little bean teepee is here. We are slowly but surely turning this into a perennial garden area. You can see my husband's pumpkins that he planted. Unfortunately, way too late, so I think we're just probably going to eat some of those blossoms. And I'm going to put right here my little planting. I don't have a ton of bulbs, so this isn't going to be an incredibly ambitious endeavor today, but I do need to get this area cleared out and get some soil exposed here for putting my bulbs in. So you want to make sure you have somewhere you can see that we have kind of a little sunny patch here. So they should do all right. Bulbs, depending on what you're growing, will grow in partial shade, but just like any flowering plants, they do need at least a little bit of sun. So I think this is going to be a good spot for some really pretty spring flowers to come up next year. Now you can also plant kind of near your house, and if you do that, that's a good way. If you're looking to get earlier blooms, you get kind of a little microclimate the closer you are to your home. I have a lot of trees right around my house, so it would look really beautiful to have some tulips and things coming up right away in the spring by my home, but they just wouldn't get the light that they need right up close to the house. So that's why we're going to go a little bit out here for planting. Another thing about bulbs is you typically have 2 types. So you have either hardy bulbs or tender bulbs. And so hardy bulbs are bulbs that we are planting. They're the ones you're going to plant in the fall, and they are ones that need a period of cool temperatures in order to blossom and to succeed. So those are bulbs that you plant here in Minnesota around late September, early October. Tender bulbs are one that you plant in the spring. They are going to blossom in the summer for you, or bloom in the summer for you, and then you have to dig them up in the fall and store them over winter if you're going to have those. So I am definitely a lazy gardener, or as lazy as I can manage. So I'm pretty much only ever going to mess with hardy bulbs, because just with the amount of things we have going on, there's no way I'm going to get around to digging up a bunch of bulbs and storing them successfully over winter. So it's hardy bulbs only for this girl. So here are the bulbs that I'm going to plant. Here I have these muscari. These are going to be kind of a tall, slender, really pretty purplish blue planting. And then in here I have just a little bit of a variety of things. I've got some tulips. These smaller ones are daffodils, and these really little ones here are crocus. So I'm going to get my area all situated here, and I'm going to get these planted. Okay, so I got the area all cleared of sticks and sticks and grass and other things. It's sunny, my goodness. And so now I'm just gonna kind of dig it up with the shovel. This would be a great thing to do with a broad fork or a tiller if you have one. We don't have either, so I'm just using a shovel. And yeah, then I will mix in a little bit of peat moss. And peat moss isn't sustainable, so I don't recommend using peat moss, but it's something my husband bought a couple years ago, I didn't even realize. And we have just this huge bag of it, so I'm just going to use it up while we have it, but otherwise just some good compost would be good to mix in, or if you have some leaf mulch, that would be really good too, just to help with the drainage and to provide some good nutrition for your bulbs. So here's my planting site with Sunny supervising and making sure I did things properly. And when you have a planting site, you really don't want to spread them out too much. They say when you kind of read about planting bulbs and things, they always advise planting them kind of closer together. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to plant them, and it's highly professional. These are my muscaria bulbs. I have about 50 of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to toss them in. Now some of those were a little far, and wherever they land is where I'm going to plant these things. And if you want a more kind of focused planting, that's fine. But I really just kind of like the look of sort of just they grew where they grew type of a situation. So Sunny, those aren't for you. Leave them. Leave them. I definitely have less of these. These are my tulips and my crocus and my daffodils. I only have, I think, 5 of each of these. So when I plant these, or when you plant any bulbs, you want to plant them so the pointed side is up. So like on this tulip, this will be the part that goes up. And here, this little muscaria, you can see these roots on the bottom, so this part's going to go up. And when you plant them, you want to go down roughly 2 to 3 times deeper than it is around, you know. So then this one would go down, see how it just kind of is through that first joint of my finger? I'd probably plant it as deep about as my finger then. That's how far that one's going to go. But it's a good idea to always check your packaging. It will usually have specific instructions. So I'm going to kind of group these together. My tulips I think I'll kind of put over here in this part of the garden, and then maybe sort of in the middle I might do my crocuses, and then on the other edge over there maybe I'll put my daffodils. Okay, so here you can kind of see how I have mapped out where I'm going to plant everything, and I'm trying to keep Sunny, no, from eating all the bulbs, but she really is kind of interested in them. So I'm just going to put these in like I showed you before, and then I'm going to give everything a good water, and I'll show you what happens next. Next, the whole area is going to get a really, really good soak. And unfortunately, my hose doesn't reach over here, so I'm going to be just kind of water canning it, but make sure you get all the soil good and moist. If you want to, you can remove most of the soil and plant everything, cover it with a little bit of soil, then water, cover, and then water again. That's really ideal, but just with the amount of time I have today and with my planting circumstances, this was just the best option. So I'm just going to give it probably at least 1 more, maybe 2 more water cans here to make sure it really gets a lot of good moisture, especially since our ground is really dry right now. Okay, so this last step involves me taking a quick trip down to the chicken coop to get some chicken wire. Now, I'm doing this because squirrels are a huge issue at our house. We have a ton of them. And a couple of years ago, just before we bought our house, I went to Amsterdam, and it was super exciting to get, oh, it sounds like my fence is clicking. Oh, look at this. Must be just about lunchtime, though I gotta tell you, she is ready to be done with those piglets. This is the remains of a pumpkin that is shorting out my fence currently. The pigs decided to break into the garden and eat one of our 2 pumpkins that has currently survived, so that was kind of a sad thing. Anyway, back to planting bulbs. So as I was saying, just before we got our house, I went to visit a friend who's living in Amsterdam, and I was there at kind of the wrong time of year to bring bulbs back from Amsterdam. You're supposed to get ones that are allowed to be grown in the United States. They have to have a special stamp on them. And we went to the floating flower market, and I looked at every vendor booth trying to find bulbs that I could bring back and plant. And finally, it was at one of the very last ones, of course, that was there. They had one tiny little cooler that had bulbs that you could bring back and plant if you live in the United States. And I was so excited, so I brought them back, planted them, and squirrels dug them up and ate them. And I was so heartbroken. So we are getting some chicken wire because we are going to protect our bulbs from squirrels from eating them, because fool me once, but not fool me twice, squirrels. Okay, so I've laid out my length of chicken wire. I have a little bit extra on the end, but I've got it pretty much covering my whole bulb planting area. And you can just leave this on here pretty much in perpetuity. The bulbs will have no problem growing right up through the chicken wire. So here I just have some basic kind of garden staples that you can get for, they're not very expensive. I'm just going to staple down around the edges. I need to go pick up a few more as best I can. And that should keep the squirrels out of my new bulb patch. Okay, and now last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some straw that I have and I'm going to mulch the whole top layer, and I'll leave that there all the way until they come up in the spring. All right, so that's it. We have our fall bulbs all planted and ready to go. I'm so excited to see how they turn out in the spring, so make sure you check back here 6-7 months from now and we'll see how they're looking. And always make sure you check the blog post, a link below. I always forget to mention something in these videos, so I'll have more information in the blog post. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. Always check back here. We have new videos every single week about farming, family, food, and fortitude here at our Rough and Tumble farmhouse.